Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to my channel, I hope that by the end of this video, you might have found something useful and will consider subscribing. What I'm going to be talking about today is part 13 of my neck through guitar build. And specifically, we're going to be ordering the parts to assemble this guitar, the hardware. So let's hop over onto the computer and get started. What you see here on the right side of the screen is a guitar hardware list, which I created in Google Sheets. And I'm going to put a link to this list in the description for this video down below if you would like to use it. And I find using a list can be really beneficial for a couple of reasons. First of all, it helps you to remember all the different components that you need when you build a guitar. Now, this list is just the hardware. It's not the wood. The wood is material, and that's a different list. For the hardware, though, this is the list that I'm using. And I just recently created this list because you have to understand, I have been building guitars for a couple of decades now, and I've built hundreds of guitars. And I have a list of the parts that I like to use and what I know works and what doesn't work in my head. So I typically can rely on that. But if you're a new builder, if you're building your first guitar, it's helpful to have a list because you will invariably forget to include an important component. And there's nothing more tragic than to run into a situation where you're building your guitar and suddenly realize that you forgot an important part and you didn't consider it. So having the list will help you to make sure that all the components that you're going to use on the guitar will work together. And that it also helps as you're designing the guitar to have this list, because then you can check to see what it is you are hoping to use and whether or not it's going to play well with the design and all the other components that you're going to purchase. This list also includes a column for the brand because I like to keep track of the different brand components, which is not always possible in every situation. You may find, for example, your pickguard screws, you don't know what brand they might be, or your control cavity screws, even strap buttons and jack plates. You don't always know what the brand is, but I try to include that wherever possible. Then the seller, because the seller isn't always the same as the brand, you may be purchasing your components off AliExpress or eBay or Amazon or any host of resellers that are out there. So I like to keep track of that so that I know where I was getting the components that I like to use. And typically whatever seller I'm using is the best price that I can find currently for that particular component. So the first item on the list are tuners. And what I do is when I'm thinking about the parts that I need for a guitar, is I start out at the very top of the headstock and work my way down. Now, you may find there are some items in this list that should be there that aren't. For example, mini switches, push-pull pots, maybe LED lighting systems that you think would be cool. I haven't included everything. I've just included the basic components that are found on most guitars. And if you wanted to add something that may not be on this list that's part of the design that you're thinking of, you can always add a row and then add that item into it, and the cost will update. So again, the first item on the list is tuners. And we are here on the Hipshot website. And this is where I purchase Hipshot tuners. If I'm using Gato, I'll use a different seller, but obviously because Hipshot doesn't sell Gato. But so what I'll do is I'll head over to the tuning machines page. And as you can see, they have a lot of different tuners that you can choose from. It just depends on your personal preference. And for the guitar I'm building, this neck through guitar, it's going to have a 3x3 headstock configuration. So I like the Hipshot closed guitar tuning machines. And so I'll click on that. And these are the tuning machines that I can choose from, a variety of different finishes: black, gold, nickel, silver, satin. And for this one, I'm just going to stick with Chrome. And like I said, it's a 3x3, so I have to think about the orientation, bass side or treble side. I'm going to obviously order 3 of each. They also give me the option of choosing a different post length, which is how tall the post extends above the front of the headstock. And it goes from 19 millimeters all the way to 23 millimeters. And I find that for most of the guitars that I build, 21 millimeters, which is right in the middle, works just fine. So I'll start out by adding 3 bass side tuning machines, and then I will add 3 treble side tuning machines. And then I can go to the cart and I can see the order here and the total cost. Now you'll notice at the bottom, and this isn't going to be available for everybody, there's a subtotal which has been scratched out and then replaced with another number. The scratched out number or crossed out number here, that is the price you would pay as just a one-off hobby builder. I have a wholesale account with Hipshot because I'm going to be using this guitar to serve 2 purposes. First of all, I'm going to use it to create my YouTube series, and I earn money from that. Then I'm going to, once the guitar is finished, I'm going to sell it to somebody else. So I'm a reseller. So I signed up for an account, a wholesaler account, and the price I pay is about half of what I would have paid had I not had that account. So I see that it's $52.92, and I'm not ready to check out yet because I have other items that I will purchase from Hipshot. So we'll come back to that in a second. Next item on the list, string trees. String trees are always on the headstock if you're using a flat fender style headstock. Helps to generate the required string tension. This guitar has an angled headstock, so I don't need string trees. So I can ignore item number 3. Next is the nut. Now in this case, I'm using bone nut, and I typically make my own bone nuts and I process them myself. So I have a drawer filled with bone nut blanks, so I don't have to add that. That's already taken care of. Fret wire. Now the fret wire that I purchased for this particular guitar is stainless steel fret wire from Just Car. And on their website, you can click to see all the different options that are available. And I'm using the stainless steel fret wire. So we'll scroll down here. And I believe it is the 4795S fret wire. And you can choose a variety of different options. It says tang size. It's always the same. There isn't really an option here for this particular fret wire. Nickel, silver, stainless steel, EVO gold. I'm using stainless steel. Fret style. You can purchase by the pound coiled or a 25-piece set or 1 2-foot straight length. Now, typically for a 25.5-inch scale length guitar, you're going to need about 4 2-foot lengths or just one of these 25-piece sets. I buy by the pound, and the radius is automatically set to 10 inches, which works really well regardless of what your radius is, anywhere from 9.5 all the way up to 14. I'm going with a 12-inch radius. 10-inch will work fine once I press it in, and that's what I would use for my fret wire. Okay, so back to the list. Neck mounting screws, not applicable in this case. It's a neck through guitar, but it's included on the list. Pickups. When I purchase pickups, I make my own pickups. I wind them myself. So I don't buy off the shelf, existing pickup brands like Seymour Duncan, DiMarzio, or any of the others. I just make my own pickups. So I need to buy the components for that. Now I could buy them all separately, but what I like to do is I purchase them from a company called CE Distribution. And again, this is a company where you can sign up for a wholesaler account and you'll save quite a bit of money. But that's only if you're a wholesaler. You have to prove that you're a wholesaler. You can't just say you're a wholesaler. And that's the same with the HipShot website as well. So what I'll do is I will click on the guitar parts and pickups column, and they have a whole list of all the different types of components that you can purchase. So I'm going to head to pickup parts, and here we have all the different components. But what they have that I really like is a pickup kit, and they have several of them. They have them for humbuckers, they have them for single coils, they have them for Telecaster style pickups, they have bass pickups. So I'm going to go with, this guitar is going to be using a bridge and neck humbucker. So I will click on that, and then I will select the bridge, add that to cart, the neck, and I'll add that to the cart. Again, I have a lot of other parts I need to purchase, and that I will be purchasing from CE Distribution as well, so I'll come back to it. And I'm not going to go through this entire list. I'm just giving you kind of an idea of what I go through to gather up all the parts for the guitar that I'm building. So next I would have like a pick guard, not applicable in this case because I'm not using a pick guard, and the same true with the pick guard screws. For the bridge, we're going to head back to HipShot, and for this guitar I'm just using their standard 6-string fixed guitar bridge. I'm going to go with chrome. Now they have two different floor heights. 0.125 is 1/8 of an inch, and then 0.175 is about 1/16 of an inch thicker. So it really depends on the design of your guitar, which one you need to use. In this case, I'm just going to go with the 0.125 inch thick bass. Again, chrome finish. I'll add that to the cart. And you can see here it is priced at $62.70. It would be double that if I didn't have my wholesale account. So I have all the parts that I'm going to purchase from HipShot, so I could go ahead and check out. I would get my shipping and taxes, which I would then add to my list over here in that column D. And back here on the CE Distribution site, I can go and purchase or order all the components that I will purchase from CE Distribution. And that's going to include volume pot, tone pots, the selector switch, the switch tip, the knobs, the output jack, the jack plate, and the strap buttons. Items like the control cavity cover screws and pickguard screws, I usually purchase those in bulk, and I'll check either Amazon or eBay and see who has got like a bulk quantity of 100 screws of the dimension and size that I need for those particular items. Sometimes I also order from WD Guitar Parts. They have good prices on items, and they have a different selection of parts and components. But all the sellers that I purchase from, I try to do so if they will allow me to set up a wholesaler account to save money, since I'm going to be reselling the guitar, rather than paying full price as if I was just somebody who was building a guitar for a hobby. So that kind of gives you an idea of how I'm going to order these parts. So I'm going to go ahead and place the order, and I'll be back to conclude this video. Okay, we're back, and I have finished placing the order for all my components, and I have added the costs, taxes, and shipping and everything to the form here, and you can see how that kind of works out. Now, I did update the form slightly. I added a line for capacitors, which I can't believe I forgot. And then I broke out the cost for taxes and shipping down at the bottom. But the total cost for all the hardware for the neck through guitar build is going to be $247.38. Now, I know that you can look at some of these numbers here, and you might think, well, you can get a toggle switch for cheaper than $18.75, or maybe knobs for cheaper than $25.90. And that's true, but it all comes down to how many orders you want to place with different sellers and what effect that's going to have on shipping costs. Because here I'm getting all these items in one shipment instead of having some parts from CE Distribution, other parts from, somebody else like WD Music or whoever. That way I keep my shipping costs relatively low. And in this day and age, shipping costs can be shocking. So by doing it this way, I'm keeping my costs somewhat under control with regard to shipping. I may be paying a little bit more, but in truth, when I've searched around, I'm not going to be paying that much less for a Switchcraft 3-way toggle switch. So that's kind of this is how I'm doing it. And this, like I said before, this form will be available for you to download. There'll be a link in the description for this video down below, so you can copy it and use it the way you might see fit. You can add items, you can take items out, whatever you would like to do. You might even want to add all the materials to this list and just have one overriding list for everything. I like to keep it separate, but to each his own. So there you have it. Well, that concludes part 13 of the neck through guitar build. In the next part, I hope to start doing the final assembly. Hopefully all the parts will have arrived in the meantime. So until the next episode, as always, take care, stay safe. Click the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. And again, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. And I hope to see you in the next episode.